Jon Jones has been a very interesting one for me, what's been going on with him lately. We have all thought from day one that Jon Jones should just embrace the heel role. Right? He was a young guy, fame, fortune, a level of power within his own world and his own industry. That's not a recipe to go out and be a pillar of the community, sadly. That's the downside to it. But it's also the reality of it. I can remember when Jon was coming out and he was being soft-spoken, he was doing these interviews, and he'd slip the Bible in there every now and then, and he just wanted to be this great guy. And I remember this big resentment from people that knew him, going, man, you're so fake. I remember when he got in that fight with Rashad. It was a huge fight at the time, but that was Rashad's entire contention. Jon, I know you, and you're being fake. I don't really think there's anything wrong with the guy being fake. I mean, he can go out and pick whatever character he wants to go out and display to the world, but I remember it used to drive guys that knew him absolutely insane. I got to know Jon, and I agreed with it. Yeah, he was being fake, but I'm going, but Jon, you're a really nice guy. And he is. Jon Jones is actually a very nice guy. We give him a hard time on this show. That's just because he's a name you recognize. And a lot of times I take the negative approach. But I could tell you, I could give that guy 4 compliments for every insult I wanted to give him. He's actually a very nice guy. He's fun. He's funny. He's caring. He's actually a really nice guy. But he's not the world's nicest guy like he wants to come out and present. And when the sun goes down, he cuts loose. Sometimes a little too far. But he cuts loose, like you might expect a young man to do. And so many people, and what I'm speaking to right now, so many people have said, hey, Jon, just come out and be the villain. You do curse. So go ahead and slip some curse words in there. And you do have a mean streak. And maybe even as far as a couple of anger issues. But in this industry, you can go ahead and let that, you're a competitive guy. And he just resisted it and he didn't want to do it. I think it's very refreshing now that he has. I've seen how the crowd has responded to him. I remember when he was at a press conference with Daniel Cormier, who's a legitimate, like, Jon Jones is coming off of court cases and he's in handcuffs and hit and runs, and that was like a DUI. I can't even remember, the list got so long. The crowd booed Daniel Cormier. They're all cheering for Jon Jones. Daniel Cormier was so confused, he actually asked the crowd at the press conference on live TV while wearing a suit. He was so genuinely confused, he broke character and just said, hey, guys, why are you booing me and you're cheering for him? I've never done anything wrong, and he just got out of the clink. Crowd booed him for even asking the question. Started cheering for Jon Jones and chanting his name. It was a really interesting moment. But I think it also, to Jon, I think it showed him, hey, all those people that told you, just be yourself. Let the fake, let the character, just be a young, crazy, badass. Just be that guy that you are. I think it really showed him, hey, those people had it right. Because he seemed to loosen up after that, even on social media. Right, even on social media, instead of putting out different verses at 12 a.m., he's sending photos of himself out at the bar. He's sending out challenges. He's being aggressive. And I think that it opened Jon's eyes in some ways. And you decide if that's right or wrong. I'm purely speaking from the world of PR. From the world of PR, getting the public involved, doing public relations. He got really good advice that he finally took. Right now, Jon is in a bit of a legal battle. He's got this hearing coming up with USADA that is going to directly, effectively, and immediately impact his career, starting with his ability to become eligible to get a license to fight. The rule on that from PR is you go radio silent. You go bury your head in the sand. The next time you were seen, you were wearing a suit, you were hanging your head, you were answering questions, looking people in the eye, and going back to hanging your head, showing a level of humility, getting sworn in, coming clean, walking out, and then you go right back into it. But you wait till the gavel comes down, and that's just kind of the rule. That's not some brilliant thought. That's just what everybody does. Not just with fight. You guys will remember when Tiger Woods went through some mess. Did he get a DUI? I think Tiger Woods, it was like caught on video. Was he a DUI? Or maybe he was on some drugs or a combination of the two. But it was a big mess. And you remember he hung his head. He had his press conference. He let a little more time go by. He did what we call outran it, which just means you let time go by. Time heals all wounds. A lot of truth to that. So Jon, well, I fully support him embracing what we're calling the heel. But he's not playing. He's Jon being Jon. He dropped the fakeness, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And the people decided, no, we're going to take it. We're into it. This is a cage fight. We're a rough crowd. We like what you're doing here. Good news for him. While I love that he embraced that, and I know he does too. I know he realized he finally, okay, I've come around and it's time. I don't like the order that he's doing it. I think he's got to go lay low. I mean, he was in a dust-up with Colby Covington as recently as 3 weeks ago. He offered RDA $50,000 to beat Covington's ass. He's already contacted Tyron Woodley and said, hey, let's train together. I used to train with Colby. I used to live with him. Let me show you a few things. He just got in a dust-up with Daniel Cormier. It was a lot of fun. I support it all 100% after his hearing. It is important when you go to those hearings, not only to have your facts in order, not only to come well-armed, prepared to defend yourself, and prepared to take what's coming, but it's also important to be liked. The people judging you are human beings, and they do follow this stuff. And why at some level you would hope and think that they are above it. They're not. No one is. No one is. Life in so many capacities is never any different than when you were in the 7th grade. And ultimately, whether you were going to have a good day or a bad day was completely based around the fact of this is a popularity contest and do the other kids like me? Those principles just don't go away. I've been having some fun with what Jon's doing. I like the back and forth with Daniel. One of my favorite feuds in MMA. I would suggest until he gets through that hearing, he buries his head in the sand. And every time he wants to send out a tweet, every time he wants to do one of these messages, just write it down. Send a little text message to yourself, Jon. Email yourself, store them up, and let loose after the gavel comes down. That's been my observation with Jon, and there does seem to be some kind of very bizarre optimism that Jon will be in the ring later this year. And I can't help but wonder where that comes from, because my understanding of the rules, and I'm very good at this stuff. This is off the top of my head without sitting down with a lawyer and going through them. It's just off the top of my head, but I'm very good at them for all the wrong reasons. I was in Jon's shoes. I dealt with this. I sat before these. I went before this. I had to get immersed in it and inundated with it. Know where I had a defense and know where the gig was up. I just had to do this stuff, so I learned these rules really well. A lot better than other people will ever have to go through. So a little piece of unwanted advice, but that is my advice for Jon Jones. Delete the app if that's what it takes. If you're drinking a little bit at night, or maybe you're even bored, maybe that's what it leads to. Maybe most likely a combination of delete the app. Don't even have it at your fingertips. If you just can't turn that damn phone off, if something seems like a good idea and you wake up the next day and go, oh my goodness, what did I do that for? Delete the app. It's everything I just told you that he did, absolutely everything, which was great and entertaining and meaningful and reached a lot of people. It was all done through Twitter. Just delete the app.